All right, peace
Right.
and love. Peace and love. Welcome back to Black Earth Days, your weekly magazine for Black environmental justice. It's your brothers, I should say. Andre Hill II, and
Tell Smith the second.
yes, indeed, brother.
Right here, your big Papa Earth. What's going on, man?
What's going on, fam? What's going on? Got to hit it with the high pitch. What's going on?
We had a bit of a hiatus, just a bit of an hiatus right here. But we're back. We're back, and we are better than ever. We have we have a lot of stuff to talk about. Lot of stuff to unpack. Um, and we have a situation now in D.C. Well, in this country anyway, with regards to our presidential election, right?
You
Huh?
know what? I didn't know you was gonna go there. I ain't know you
Oh,
was
we
gonna
gotta go there. We gotta go there, brother. We
go.
gotta, we gotta go there. Listen, man. Kamala Harris, man. Kamala Harris could be our president.
She could be.
Boom.
She could.
Boom. I'm excited.
You excited about it?
Excited. I'm excited.
I
I'm
ain't gonna lie.
excited.
I'm worried about it. I'm worried. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna
I'm
lie.
a little worried. A little worried. I mean, we listen. The whole situation that took place in I forget where that was now, but because it
Yeah.
was just that insignificant. Um, this is perhaps the most um, significant assassination attempt that was perhaps insignificant. Because I don't even remember where the hell it was, where he was when the thing happened,
Yeah,
right?
me neither. Me
Uh,
neither.
but nevertheless, it happened. It was very strange, but nevertheless, put that aside. Let's
Mhm.
look at. I mean, just to look at the fact that Kamala Harris now is going to be the Democratic nominee for president of the United States, and this is when you look at the people that came before her to set the stage for this. I mean, we can't omit Hillary Clinton, right? Can't omit Hillary Clinton. But we certainly can't omit Shirley Chisholm.
Yeah, yeah.
Shirley Chisholm,
Okay.
right, who did run for president of the United States. Hey,
She did.
man, listen. People like her, black women like her, set the stage for this to happen. And finally, we're looking at um, this black woman that people for the longest time were trying to make her not be black, who's
Kamala,
running for president of the United States.
Kamala Harris.
Yeah, man. People coming up with all this garbage stuff. Man, listen, dude. Black.
Well,
Um, what
you
are we
say
talking about?
you say she's black. I mean, well, you got it. You got it. Listen, I'm going to play objective.
Okay, all right.
So I so I'm just gonna say if I answer the questions, it ain't even devil's advocacy. It's objective advocacy. It's
Okay.
cool.
All
All
right. All right.
right. So, but at the same time, my worry about it is neither here nor there. Um, but I don't know. Just trying to keep it in the scope of what our show is about in general. All right. But I don't want to interrupt you on your train of thought. You can go ahead and finish.
Just as a matter of fact, and a point of reference, I wanted to make sure that on this show we pointed out the fact that on Black Earth Days we pointed out that Kamala Harris is our nominee apparent right now, is the apparent
Hmm.
nominee for the Democratic nomination for president of the United States.
Right.
Just saying.
That's
Just saying.
that is a fact. That's a fact.
Just saying.
That's true. That is absolutely true for
All
sure.
right. Now,
Yes, yeah, yeah.
since we don't want to get off too far into the bushes on that, we are gonna talk about one other thing here, and that is you see this FAMU stuff, right? See
For
it right
sure.
there? See it right there?
Yeah.
Not only am I a
Indeed.
rattler to the bone, you cut me, I bleed orange and green, baby. Okay,
All
you
right.
understand what I'm saying?
I feel you.
Uh, I bleed orange and green to the day I die, and I am so happy to announce that FAMU has announced has introduced its interim president, who is my friend, my former mentor, who was a protege of my father, who happened to have been the seventh president of FAMU, Dr. Timothy Beard. Dr.
Okay.
Timothy Beard, who was the former president of Polk State College, right here in the Tampa Bay area. Hey man,
Gotcha.
hey, awesome. He just resigned there. He left there, and he went back home to Port St. Joe area,
Mm-hmm.
and they called him on the phone. He went in for the interview, and there you go. He's the interim president. I'm happy. I'm
Okay.
happy.
Congratulations to the brother.
Yes, 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 yes. We're gonna see some good things happen. Some good things happen, man. Great things happen. So, um, did you know? Just want to point out a fact, another fact. Um, According to news sources, CNN, Al Jazeera, Scientific American, there is this thing called dark oxygen. Have you heard about that?
Dark oxygen.
Dark oxygen.
I'm
Yes.
mad. I'm upset because I haven't heard about it now, to be quite honest
So
with you, brother.
they being scientists have discovered this thing called dark oxygen, which is being produced um like 13,000 in the deep ocean, like in the Pacific.
Okay.
Okay. Um, and this is huge. Now
But
we
wait.
don't know.
A naturally occurring element?
Yes, it's actually oxygen.
Dark oxygen. I'm gonna Google it. Go ahead.
Dark oxygen. Google it up, man. Let me tell you, I was blown. I was blown. So this is what we're looking at.
Mhm.
Um, Through deep sea exploration for years now, it's not been. I mean, it's not unusual. A lot of people recognize that through deep sea exploration, new sources of fuel are being worked on. Right. A lot of people know that. But when they found this particular dark oxygen, what they call dark oxygen, is produced by several different minerals and mineral deposits that are found on the floor of the deep sea,
Mm-hmm.
about 13,000 feet below the surface of the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
That's a long way down.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so they've discovered this thing. The problem is they don't know, scientists are unsure about its effect on the ecology of the ocean if they keep drilling. So what they've done is they put a stop um, to the drilling exercises, and they're focused in on the effects and trying to figure out what the effects would be if they keep on producing this dark oxygen. It may be a source of energy that we're unaware of. Uh, Excuse me. It certainly works against the um this thing of the production of carbon when coming up with this energy source, right? So as it does with as we look at the production of carbon in other sources of energy as they're produced or being burned off and everything, this doesn't do that. So that's one
Wait,
of the
wait,
valuable parts
wait,
about
wait,
it.
wait. All right, my bad. Hold on. Walk me, help me out here. Walk me through it. All right. So, 'cause I haven't been able to research this on it, right? So,
Right.
so we've got dark oxygen being discovered from the drilling into the ocean floor at a certain depth.
Yes.
Okay. Now, is there already so at this? So, because where my mind went is this: is there already naturally occurring, let's say, seafloor rupture based on, let's say, underwater tectonic activity? In other words, underwater earthquakes, for lack of a better understanding. You see what I'm saying?
Listen, when I read it, I
Which
had to
which
try
would
to make,
already do that, right?
listen, I had to try to make sense of it all. At
I
first,
mean,
I'm thinking,
is that already happening?
is there a whole layer of oxygen under the water that I'm unaware of, like underwater caves, like when you get a certain depth, there's just oxygen and there's air. Yeah, that's
I
what I
mean,
was thinking.
okay. When they see, I'm a man. I need to do some more research into it. How is oxygen? Is it trapped oxygen, or is it oxygen being produced by certain microbes down
Okay,
there? You
well,
feel me?
that's what it is. It is. I'm gonna read it to you, okay? And you made a very good point, because that's what it is. Okay, so the discovery of the of the dark oxygen, right,
Mhm.
is the it actually implies that there is a possibility that that oxygen breathing life, right,
Mhm.
came out of the waters before photosynthesis evolved.
Oxygen breathing life came out of the waters. In other words, meaning um, what we would think as purely
Humans.
hydrogen based life, or not even just hydrogen, organisms that were going to survive purely on water,
Air.
and not and not just oxygen by itself. But how would they do that? How would they do that? How would they do
Well,
that?
so that means they moved from the water now. So before plant life was there, before there was plant life, that means that there would have been, because the concept of photosynthesis has everything to do with plant life, right?
Mm.
How plants grow from sunlight. So what has happened here is you're talking about a situation where the oxygen, um, a being is coming from the water, um, and it is an oxygen breathing, air breather that's coming out of the water before there could actually be plants that came out, right? That grow in the water. So let's look at that. It says, but dark oxygen could certainly help aerobic microbes that survive in the deep today.
No, I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry. I'm not cutting your train of thought. Just you. I think you already answered it. I mean, it may seem science fiction in theory, but essentially, what you're looking at, you already answered it. You said it. You said, I don't go into, if there's, underground cave systems and all of that. That's the best hypothesis right there.
Yeah, yeah. So that's what it was. That's what this whole thing. That's part of this whole thing, right?
Mhm.
And so the scientists are trying to find out more about it, and it's important, for a number of reasons.
Yeah.
And one of them has to do with the creation of carbon as it's being used.
Mhm.
As things are, as fuel sources are burned off, they create carbon and everything like that. This doesn't. This reduces that entirely. Entirely. So,
Wait. All right. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to follow you. How does this reduce carbon again?
okay. So as we look at okay, so let's look at the concept behind. I'm trying to find it right now. Okay. Okay. So if we go into we go into the production of energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So energy comes from gases and things like that.
Fossil fuels.
Right. When we when we um when we burn fossil fuels, what does it let off?
Carbon emissions.
Carbon, right? When we burn oxygen, what happens?
Good enough. CO2.
Which is carbon,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
But
What we're saying here is that we're not using carbon to produce this.
mm-hmm.
This is oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
This is they call it dark oxygen, but this is oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
And they're saying that in mass production of this whole thing, or in the burning of it and everything else, the carbon footprint and the carbon creation is much lower, if at all.
Minimal. So wait.
Right.
Burning oxygen. Burning this dark oxygen.
Yes.
And so let me make sure I'm understanding this. So burning. So when we say the term dark oxygen, so let's just help the audience out here. Dark oxygen, not this is not oxygen that is a different color. This is an excess of oxygen.
Because of where it comes from.
Right. So let's just get that. Let's just clear that up for y'all.
Right.
This is so
it's only called dark oxygen because you're going down to the depths of the ocean in order to pull it up. That's all. That's the reason why it's called dark oxygen.
and the implication of it is excess oxygen.
Right.
Right.
So watch this. What we're saying here is that whenever let's just look at the basics of this thing, right? So we look at carbon, right? When carbon burns in the air, it reacts with oxygen to produce carbon dioxide, heat and light, right? This is an example of combustion reaction. That's a combustion reaction, right?
Right.
Okay. So they're trying to find out what happens when you burn dark oxygen, or what happens with dark oxygen. What are its benefits? What's the carbon um production with that? You get what I'm saying? Because any new element like that, or not, I say element, any type of new substance like this that's formed from rocks. These are like a series of rocks, copper and everything else is that's under the water that this is coming from
Mm-hmm.
as they're mining it.
Gotcha.
Right? So they're they're saying that they suspect that there would be very little, if any, carbon production. I mean, think about it. In producing mining this stuff, aren't you emitting carbon when you go mining, when you're doing mining processes?
Indeed.
Right. In this particular case, what are you doing? You're getting rocks that when they come, when they what they do is ionize, right? And there's no combustion involved,
Right.
right? But when they ionize, they create this oxygen, right? So listen, I'm still trying to understand it myself. And
We
so the reading on this thing is very interesting. I suggest to everybody out there that's watching, please join us in the research in this whole thing. It's very, very interesting. And
yeah.
there is, I got to tell you, it's very interesting.
I, we'll challenge the audience. I'm gonna do my research on it. I'm gonna bring it back to the
Oh
next
yeah,
show.
oh yeah.
For what it's worth, if it's something feasible, feasible, on whatever industrial level. Because we've got to we got to figure out if it's something that is applicable in our most, usable environmental industries. So yeah, I'm gonna do my research on it. I'm just now finding out about it right now, family, because he ain't even tell me about it before we started the show.
Right. I intentionally did that. I intentionally did that.
It's cool.
I intentionally did that because I was like, holy crap, I gotta say something about this.
Sure.
I'm like, man, this is crazy. Dark oxygen? Who knew? Right? I didn't know. I had no idea.
I
So
like the idea of it so far.
so everybody check it out. Dark oxygen. Dark
Yeah.
oxygen. Just recognize that, and just remember, basic science is that carbons do what? They burn out in oxygen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, it does. So think about this. This is oxygen in water. Like from these rocks. That's crazy. That's crazy. So anyway,
Very,
um,
very, very intriguing.
very intriguing, man. Very intriguing. Dark oxygen. All right. Did you have anything you wanted to, any news or anything like that you wanted to share with us? Anything that top what I just did, dude?
Man, dark oxygen that's
That's
pretty
where
heavy.
it's at, bro.
That's pretty heavy. That is pretty heavy. News, I don't know. I kind of do want to get back into the presidential situation. Um,
Tell you what, let's do it this way. With this whole thing that's happened recently, we have a lot to consider. On the environmental front, um, we have a president who currently is doing a lot with regard to the different grants and opportunities that are out there for our communities.
mm,
I think everybody would agree with that. There are shovel-ready jobs, which probably is a bad term to use. Well, I say it's not a bad term, but which probably not the correct term to use for them right now. But when I say shovel-ready jobs, they're jobs you can walk right into. Jobs you can walk right into, right?
yeah.
So,
Okay.
but that's once you win a grant, right? Or you're able to get. So there's a lot of money that's going into the reduction of carbon. We just talk about carbon production, but and release. But in this particular case, we're talking about how we can come up with new energy sources that reduce carbon, right? And I think
Mm,
it's important for the next president, whomever she is, whomever she is, to take into account that that's a very important point. We've got to make certain that we're doing that. Right now, uh, we have so much is being produced, so much carbon is being produced here because of our cars and things like that. And so we now are starting to move towards more electric vehicles, and the automobile companies are starting to move more towards that now as well. Have you noticed that?
yeah. 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 Um, well, but the issue here, it becomes a stipulation by state at that point, right? All right, let's take Florida for instance. Got a Republican governor, right? Got a Republican governor. And me and you know very well the, let's say, the anti-environmental preemptive policy put in place. And that type of template is pretty much spread across. I would say Texas is probably the only Republican state that is not as bad for just to skinny that statement. Right. I've looked into, just some of the, like, let's say environmental economic policy that Texas has. But getting at what you're saying overall, when it comes to democratic policy nationwide, but it also state by state. Yeah, we like the idea of electric vehicles, unless you've seen the movie Leave the World Behind. That's a whole nother conversation, though. Don't want to get conspiracy theory with it, but but um, but also too, when we look at that entire industry, speaking of jobs, speaking of shovel ready, speaking of speaking of jobs, are the majority of those, let's say those manufacturing jobs to manufacture those vehicles, where are they? All right. Are they stateside? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And I'm asking again, my tone may sound a certain way, but most of my questions are usually objective. You feel me? Not even playing devil's advocate. I will let you know if I'm playing devil's advocate, okay? But but um, I'll congratulate it if the majority of those jobs are stateside, right? But even if we begin to break down the entire assembly of the electric vehicle itself, and the industry composing that, where the batteries coming from,
Right.
where are those being manufactured? um I really want us to dissect the next 10 years of 0 point technologies, um and where are the opportunities for Americans, and let's say classical American citizens too, because what we also see, let's say in the Biden Harris administration, is a very large a very large push on immigration. Again, saying that very objectively, but large push on immigration, and there's going to be a wrestling for those types of jobs.
Absolutely.
You feel me? And as far as I'm concerned, that is an environmental issue. I mean, hey, listen, that's an environmental issue, and we ain't trying to like just wrap everything arbitrarily up into an environmental issue, but uh, it kind of is. It is. Um, but I want I'm sorry. Get back to your train of thought, please, on that. If I take you off track too far, bro, bro, whoa, whoa, bro, none. Anyway, so I don't know when you again. I don't want to get too deep into the personal political views regarding Kamala or Trump, either way, but um, dissecting what it's going to look like, in the environmental industry. Let's just talk about energy. Talk about clean energy for one. Matter of fact, let's even trim it down to clean energy in the transportation sector in particular. Right? What do you think? What do you think what do you think Kamala's overall plan for that is? Bro. Yeah.
Are y'all live with this?
Yeah. Nah, I don't know. Bro. Yo, bro. Yeah. Yo, you heard me?
Yeah. Hold on a second. Hold a second. There we go. Okay. We had a little problem over here on my end.
Wow.
The sound was acting kind of crazy on my end. The sound had a little technical difficulty on my end, and we've been having that from time to time because we out here in North Tampa out in the country.
All right. Cool. So, but you hear my question now?
Ask your question again.
All right. So, like, Ms. Harris, Kamala Harris, trimming it down to the energy sector, the clean energy sector, trimming it down to, let's say, energy sector regarding transportation.
Right.
What you think her vision is on that, though?
I think her vision is going to be much like what we've seen recently, and it's going to carry over much more passionately, I think, under her administration, because she and this is what people don't want to. They're thinking the same thing with Biden right now. President Biden is that because he's older, he's not going to be able to move as quickly or as much as say a Kamala Harris would, right? I venture to agree with that. Let me go out on a limb and say I agree with that. Okay, let's just go out on a limb and say I agree with that. All right, but let's not fool ourselves. We are in a good situation right now in terms of the opportunities that are being given out there, money that's being put aside into these grants and to these programs that can help us to do these things to reduce these carbon emissions. I mean, listen, the industries are not taking advantage of the opportunity to do it though.
No, the industries are not. So you brought up,
and they should.
So all right, money's put aside for grants.
Yes.
Industries are not taking advantage of them. So what that tells me is there's opportunities for. I don't even just want to say, all right, again, an objective statement. Matter of fact, even ambitious statement I'm going to make here. Grassroots in collaboration with organizations that have the ambition to I don't want to say you can completely switch lanes, but they have the track record. They have that's not the word I'm looking for. They have the word for it. It's not the org chart. It's the company capability statement.
Okay.
Right. You got the company capability statement to facilitate programs of that magnitude. Right. Because again, the industries aren't. I'll be honest with you. They never did have the incentive to do that. At least not monetarily.
No.
You feel me?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so the difficulty that nonprofit organizations are having with these grants right now is the fact that they don't have the capacity to handle what's being offered. That is a problem that I think needs to be rectified. Access to funding through grants and things like that have been made very difficult over the past few years. Now that is a truth. That's true. That's very true. And it's the reason why many of our organizations, our nonprofit organizations, are not taking advantage of it because they're like, I'm just not going to win. I'm
I'm
not
not.
big enough. I'm not old enough. I'm too young. I got to partner with these people, but they don't want to partner with me. I got to
Right.
do this, but it's not that. So it's always something. It's always peanut. It's always peanut butter, no jelly. You get what I mean?
Absolutely.
And we got to make sure that these companies are coming in, or these nonprofit agencies or organizations are well equipped to be able to handle these things. But that does not does not mean, number one, that it's impossible for them to do the work. They can do the work.
Mhm.
And it does not mean that no one is out there who can do it. That's not true. They are out there. They can do it. And so to go in with the attitude, with the presupposition that no one is capable, that there's no one that can be found that can carry out these tasks is out there. That's crazy. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah, we
But
know
that's been a difficulty.
yeah.
It's been a difficulty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We know the otherwise. Being
No, definitely no otherwise. We definitely do. But then, of course, when you go to conferences like the Florida Brownfield Association conference, or when you go to a conference that has NOAA there or some other organization, then you have an opportunity to actually meet people that you could partner with if you need to do that in order to get grant money, in order to transform your communities. So there are chain links that need to be made, right? Connecting dots, I guess a better way of putting it. Dots that need to be connected in order to make things work for different organizations. So
let's put a number out there. I think this one is important. Grants in the tens of millions, hundreds of millions.
oh yeah, hundreds of millions, billions.
Billions. There we go.
You mean the grants? Yeah, well, there's billions of dollars
That's what I'm
out
saying.
there in grant money.
Right.
And there are grants that are out there that have a couple of million built into it, right?
Yeah.
One of them, one of them is has to do with the changing of. I guess if you were to think hard enough, or to actually, if they really wanted to do it, that's a better way to put it. If they really wanted to do it, they would go. The bus and transportation organizations would go out there and purchase, using that grant money, go out there and make a move to purchase electrical vehicles.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or even transform people out there transforming gas vehicles to electric vehicles. Have all that. It's not like the it's not like the resources are not there to do it, especially once you have been given the money to do certain things, from government programs. So there's a lot to unpack there. There's a lot.
I think that's going to segue. What we got? 5:15. That's going to segue us into a different overview of topic in just a second here. But I think the people. I mean, I guess that's the reason we're doing the show. The people need to understand, get a gist of this industry and the types of available opportunities that are in it, especially from the perspective of it is completely and utterly our responsibility as the people to engage in environmental justice and development. You feel me? It's completely our responsibility because, when we really look at it, the government itself is only a small fraction of the population, very small fraction of the population. But the people at mass are obligated as the caretakers of the environment. We tend to think that is because the government has the jurisdiction over the land that they're responsible for taking care of. But that's not how this works, right?
Justice 30. Yo, you got to forgive me. Again, we're outside. Justice 30.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
30 for 30.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Right? So a certain percentage of land is supposed to be given, it's supposed to be reclaimed by the United States government for it to be fixed or remediated for use. By whom?
Let's go over that one again. One more time.
A certain percentage, 30% of American government of land out there right now,
Yeah.
free land, is supposed to be acquired by the government, fixed up and prepared for whom?
For whom? For whom?
Yeah.
For whom?
Who would that land be going to? In other words, once they remediate the land, does it remain government land, or is it, I mean, to the point that the people ask the question, does it remain government land to the point that people won't have access to it? Once you clean it, once it's been remediated, the purpose of the whole 30 for 30, and I want to make sure that people understand this.
Yeah,
when you hear Justice 30 or 30 for 30, that's what they're talking about, is whether or not, because you asked me that question on another show, another segment of the show. With regard to that, the reality of it is that, yes, that land is supposed to be remediated and cleaned up for people to use it, for there to be access.
But there's no clarity, is what you're telling me.
The language needs to be clear in order to make certain that people don't, in order to make sure that people agree with it and go along with it. That's what people are doing. They're taking it in this, and they're using the ambiguity of how it's being presented to say, well, who's to say that we're going to have access to that land?
Whose land
are you taking exactly to do this with?
Objective question again. Which wing, which party? Which party is
the Democratic Party?
All right.
If we're talking about that, it's both, it's bipartisan, but it's democratically led.
I got you. That answers my question. Okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So that answers my question. How long? When was 30 by 30? If you can recall, when was it implemented? The plan of it, if you can recall.
When was it implemented?
Yeah. How long has it been in?
Oh.
Since, how old is this plan?
I'm not sure how long. I'm not entirely certain how long that plan.
All right.
So
we'll get back to it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure of the time period.
Gotcha.
I think, but I know that it takes effect now.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've been doing it now. I mean, that's what they're doing.
Oh yeah.
Right. Our streams and our lands. Yeah, streams and our lands. That's what it is. So
I want to imagine, and I could be wrong, but I'm just speculating. Probably airspace too, I imagine.
No. This is purely tangible land.
No, I'm saying, what I'm saying is like, but you imagine this. all right, if there's no if it's ambiguous as far as what is the finality on the use of it after the fact, who's gonna have access to it? We don't know who's gonna have access to it. Assume the military is gonna have access to it, and if the military has access to it, I understand it's probably gonna be a no-fly zone for some time. But speculative from just coming from me. Anyway, just say, so 30 by 30, it's 2024. That's 6 years from now. 6 years is gonna fly by.
Yeah.
I'm sure, revelations, more revelations of it is going to come out. But my concern is, only us, mainly us in the environmental field are the most privy to even knowing what it is in the first place, let alone having enough concern about it to, try to make any type of counteractive plan for it.
Well, let's go back to something because I misspoke on something here.
Yes. Give us the facts.
Okay. So here's the thing. This is not just an American concept.
Okay.
Okay. There are other countries that are agreeing. I don't know which countries they are. And to be honest with you, I don't know that. What I will say is that that here right now where we are right now, we're talking about in America, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we're talking about in America, we're talking about 30%. As I said before, 30% of the land and waters are protected, are supposed to be prepared, remediated, protected, right? By the year 2030.
By the year 2030.
By the year 2030.
That you don't sound like you misspoke to me.
I just want to make sure that I said that. I
Sound
wasn't
like
sure. So I didn't misspeak.
I don't think you misspoke.
Okay.
Yeah,
I want to make sure. Okay.
I feel you.
Sometimes I say I'm getting old, man. Sometimes I forget. Sometimes I forget. I'm not falling up airplane steps or nothing like that.
Ooh, yeah, I don't think he got too many left.
Shade, I just do. But
I don't think he got those left. But yeah. No, he ain't got too many of those left. But okay.
But yeah, that's what 30 years. But I think one of the things I really want to do. How much time do we have, Drake?
About 20 minutes.
Okay, so one of the things I want to make sure that we did this in this episode is that we take a step back, and we begin to look at educating the public, the public, the Black public, about environmental justice in its realest fashion. And I'm not sure that I'm not satisfied, and Dre, I don't think you're satisfied with how we have presented this. And I think I want to represent it.
Mm-hmm.
I want to bring it up and repackage it and give it to you this way.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll start out by talking about redlining.
Right.
What is redlining? And I want to give it to you just like this. Redlining was the racist application of segregating communities.
Yes.
By literally taking a map and drawing a red line that would specifically outline areas that were designated for undesirable populations, i.e. Black people. okay, specifically designated for Black people. So does everybody understand me? I think everybody understands me when I say that, okay? So now I didn't say people of color. I didn't say, I said specifically this was geared towards segregating Black people.
I need to change that in the description to straight Black people. They got people of color in there, but go ahead.
Yeah. Now, I'm not saying to you, now let me be clear. Eventually, it got to the point where it became practice for white bankers to lend in area into that same practice and lend in areas that were undesirable for Chicanos or Mexicans that came into this country. Native Americans were put on reservations, right? But it's still a form of redlining. So the bottom line is, it was a form of segregation by land.
Absolutely.
It was a form of segregation by land designation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's redlining. That practice was supposed to have been done. By the time the Fair Housing Act had come into play, okay? And the Fair Housing Act was in 1968. Okay, that's very recent. That's very recent.
Yeah.
You have to realize that that's in the time period, literally, that many of us in our generation, Andre, were born.
Yeah, that's only about 4 years older than you, ain't it?
That's only 4 years older than I.
Yeah.
Okay, so understand, that's what it is. That's what it was. Now let's take a step further. Now we got that out of the way. There are still remnants of that so-called bygone era was supposed to have been disappeared because so much evil and clandestine practices were put into place where white people would come and dump, companies would come and dump, they would let their runoff go through communities, they would put substations, electrical substations right next to communities, and those substations are still there to this day. Those substations are still making people sick to this day. The problem is, we have yet to call them on it. Call the government entities on it. That is, to correct it as a form of outright, and let's use the proper language, as a form of outright reparations. That's not a matter of, listen, let me tell you something. This ain't, what I'm talking about is not a matter of competition. I ain't competing with nobody. We shouldn't be competing with anybody about reparations for any reparations. But man, listen, you clean my community because you did it.
Very, very simply put, that's all it is to it.
You put our houses on top of landfills.
Indeed.
You put our houses on top of landfills, and you know it.
Indeed.
Put our houses next to old mines and mining operations, and you know it.
Mm-hmm.
Our water wells were predicated on making certain that our water wells were segregated from your white water well, so our black water and your white water did not mix. Whoa, what did I just say?
Yeah.
So when they talk about white water tastes better than black water, of course it does.
Oh,
Because you designed it that way through your redlining.
quite literally.
Very literally. And there's no mistaking that it happened. There's no possibility that that didn't happen like that, or you misunderstood it. No, that actually happened. This actually happened, and white governments did it. And so, and let's be clear about one thing, Dre. When you hear these white government agencies talk about, or these people who are get offended, who are white, and get offended, stop being so damn sensitive about it.
White people in the government or white?
Yeah. Stop being so damn sensitive about it.
Any
You didn't have to do it. Yeah.
Well,
You don't. No one said you did it. Unless you did.
Like you say, you know, the illusion of the competition, or is there truly an intention of competition in their heart?
Good.
Either way, that's something they got to deal with. That's their problem. All right, that's their problem.
But wait, but Dre, that's the thing. It may be their problem because they have to fix it, or they need to fix it. But it's not only their problem for that very reason, but it is our problem because we have to be educated enough to bring it to their attention.
Indeed.
In the same way that I just laid it out just now, in the same way it needs to be laid out for them, and they need to respond to it in kind. And that is not hemming and hawing about it, not talking about, oh, well, that was a long time ago. No, it's not a matter of what a long time ago. It's a matter of these same things are going to come back to haunt us physically, health-wise, and things like that. You're going to find cracks in houses. You're going to find all the sinkholes, all this stuff that's happening. And guess what happens? We suffer from it.
True.
We suffer from it.
So, and this may not be a so objective question. Do we expect our Caucasian counterparts, not in political seats, to step in the voting block and vote on these issues on our behalf? Are we asking them to do that? Are we? Better yet, here's a more clear question. Let me ask it very specific. Are we asking Caucasian people born in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s to vote on policy that will fix Black communities, although they were born in a time, or let's say after a time, that implemented the redlining actions and policies? And they may not have been directly involved with the implications of it, and us asking them to vote for policy to remediate the situation, and it may not have any necessary direct benefit to their community. We asking them to vote for that? Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Yep.
Why?
Yep.
And why? Simply because, for one, it's the right damn thing to do. For one. For two, we all live on this planet together. Technically, it ain't no white water and black water. Technically, it ain't no white water and black water. Technically, that same water is the same water.
Yes.
That same water is the same water. So, me and you work in this industry and have seen a lot of different walks of life, work in this industry. And I'll say this, I'm gonna say this very straightforward. I've seen in this industry is where I've probably seen the most genuine white people I've ever met. Probably. Because what you see is you get to see people concerned and involved in circumstances that involve your well-being at the core, right? Literally getting their hands in the dirt and fighting for a situation that involves your well-being at the core, not only for right now, for generations to come, right? But like you say, when we put this education out there for everybody, and especially Caucasian people who are not directly involved in the environmental industry, and we say, yeah, we asking you to get involved in something that ain't gonna this ain't gonna have no benefit for your community directly. But what you gonna do? What you gonna do?
They don't have to be directly involved in it, man. They're now government officials or people who are in charge of government now that should I think the reality of it is this right here. These people know what happened. There are enough of us that have told them what happened. And if what we have to do is we have to begin to get the data together, right? We have to begin to do our own testing. We have enough engineers. We have enough lawyers. We have enough people who are savvy enough to go into our own communities, listen to the stories that were told about our communities, go in, sample, pull those samples, and use them to build a case.
Right.
It can be done.
It can be done. It can be done. Absolutely. 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 Not only can it be done, not only can it be done, I think it, we were having this conversation earlier. I think it has to be done with the confidence that we present in this case to government officials, again, with the confidence that this is not an ask. It's not necessarily an ask. This is a directive based on the constitutional relationship that the people have with the elected officials. Did we not put you in office to represent the people? We put you in office to represent the people. We did not we didn't we ain't put you in there as a royalist. That's not how the situation went. You weren't appointed, or you're not an heiress or an heir to a throne. So it's not a dictatorship. It's not a dictatorship. But both sides got to understand that, especially the people. The framework, the legal framework for that communication is that The people just have to know that, oh no, like you say, you put together the evidence, you put together the scope of delivery, and you put together the directive. Say, we need this fixed, and we need it fixed by this particular point in time. And that is essentially that simple. As a matter of fact, it comes in twofold. Not only does it become a matter of reparations, in other words, in every sense of the word, meaning to repair a circumstance, it also means restitution as well. So, well, I think we always hitting the close up mark here too. We always hitting the close up mark. When we think about when we're thinking about Black communities in their very current state, unfortunately, which we can deem right now in 2024, the majority of Black communities as transitory communities, meaning that the amount of ownership in Black communities historic Black communities, the rates of ownership are dwindling. In other words, in historic Black communities, the amount of people who own houses in that area is the rate of that is going down. Black people are now moving to the outskirts of areas and or either renting and or they're on subsidized housing, which we can still retain some level of political. Hey, you got your baby in the background. Look at that. Who is that? You see it?
I see it.
That's adorable.
Boy.
We can maintain some level of political bite that way, but we can imagine the more our communities convert into that type of transitory situation, the more our political power begins to erode, because this is the fact. A non-homeowner in a community full of homeowners is not paying property taxes.
Right.
Right? The property taxpayers are going to have more. They're going to have more political power in that area. Always. It's just the simple math on the map. So looking at that situation, all right, and then compound, that is a result of redlining. That's also a result of redlining, right?
Right.
And it doesn't seem like an environmental issue, but it is especially an environmental issue. Especially an environmental issue.
Mm-hmm.
Then you compound it with, let's take Sulphur Springs.
Oh,
was that originally what was the original demographic of that neighborhood?
White.
It was okay.
Sulphur Springs was originally a tourist, what they call it was a tourist attraction for white people, and what they call the tin can families would come. And the reason they call them tin can families was because they lived in RVs and they ate out of tin cans. Campers, people like that. So, and they would go and swimming in the in the Sulphur Springs, in the whole area there that was designated for that. Black people could not go there.
And Sulphur, and you talking about what is that? Is that east of Nebraska and Bush? Talking about that neighborhood?
Yep.
Black people gonna go over there? Okay.
I know, right? Now you wouldn't believe that, right? In a million
Yeah,
years, you wouldn't think that.
yeah.
It became when the attractions began to change and things like that. It kind of, the economics of it all went down. Became what it became.
Yeah, because right now it's just what I was describing earlier. It's a transitory community. It's mostly it's mostly well, at least a good portion of it is now a transitory community full of Black people, and then you have some other demographics of people of color, Hispanic, and otherwise. But it's mostly subsidized housing over there.
Right.
It's a lot of landlords over there who are renting to people who have Section 8 vouchers. That's the situation over there. All right. Now, of course, everyone over there can galvanize and say, hey, this is let's say an environmental issue that's going on over there. But to what extent can they push for a particular issue if the property is not owned? We can. Don't get me wrong, but the point is, we see the compound problems. We see the compound problems. And what I'm doing is wrapping this back around to the issue of reparations for historic Black communities, because what me and Walter are looking at is the true future of what we like to deem affordable housing. So when we're looking at historic Black communities, even though although they are being gentrified, if we can salvage some affordability in those communities, because we grew up there. If we can salvage some affordability in some of those communities, if Black people can move back to some of those communities, that would be excellent. Otherwise, we're looking at having to consider strong, concentrated migrations to other neighborhoods on the outskirts of the city, with an entirely different home ownership plan, so that redlining never happens again, is the point. So that redlining never happens again, because at this point, although the Fair Housing Act, has been in place, banks still at this point in 2024, listen, you ought to see some of the most recent mortgage packages out there right now. They're wild. Interest rates are wild. All right. But anyway, Brother Walt, it's 5:50, brother. I think we did an hour. Listen, we keep it real on the show. We're gonna try to keep it. When me and Broken talk for another couple hours.
Yeah.
We're gonna try to.
I think in the next episode we can go a little further and we can talk more deeply about where we need to go from here.
Indeed.
How do we mobilize? How do we get people to recognize, organize, and mobilize? Recognize, organize, and mobilize.
Yeah. Yes, indeed, brother. Well, family, this has been Black Earth Days, your weekly magazine for environmental Black justice. Black environmental justice, environmental Black justice, environmental justice for Black people. However you want to say it.
This is Walter II, the Big Papa Earth.
It's Andre here II, family. We love y'all. Peace and love. We'll see y'all next week.
Peace and love to everybody out there.